Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Happy Friday. Welcome back to our Once Club Weekly. This is a really exciting new series that we're starting called the Wellness Series. If you've seen the invite, I guess you have because you're here. And we are joined by Alice Rose, and she will be with us once a month on a Friday, is what I mean. And she'll be giving us a little insight into nutrition and how to really achieve great results to feel good inside and out. And she has, with her experience, you're going to absolutely, I think there's going to be so much value and benefit for you that it's going to be really exciting. I'm really excited because I was just saying to Alice off camera that I know what it's like to be in a situation where you never feel like time to really look after, what's going into your body because you feel like you just don't have time. And I've done days and weeks and months where I'm surviving off coffee all day, eating, really heavy dinners at night because I've not felt that I can give myself the time to really balance it out correctly. So hopefully we can get a little bit of advice and a little bit of insight to make sure that going forward, we're all eating better, feeling better going forward. But hi, Alice. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, Dominique. That was a lovely intro. Thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here and, help hopefully spread some, helpful hints and tips on how we can, best support our diet and lifestyle.
Absolutely. So I think it would be great if you can just give us a little intro or a snippet of kind of, how you got into nutrition, what you've done so far, who you've worked with, just so they have an idea of, basically what you've been up to, essentially.
Yeah, absolutely. So my background is actually in fashion. I started off with a fashion degree before I did my nutrition. So come from a similar angle in terms of, the fashion industry. I know exactly what it's like. You are whizzing around at 100 miles an hour and living off coffee. And, that is not sustainable long term. So actually, I experienced burnout. And got quite poorly myself. And it was through that journey of ill health that I came to nutrition and then requalified as a nutritionist to help support my kind of health and wellness journey and, recover from ill health. So I can totally relate and have had that kind of personal experience there, which I think always helps. So I'm a qualified nutritionist. I work in functional medicine. I also am a qualified Reiki practitioner and massage therapist. I have clients all over the world, and I support a whole host of individuals for different areas, whether it's energy, sleep, fatigue, weight loss, hormone issues, hormone balancing, gut health, whole host of different disorders, but also sort of preventative health and how we can really look at our overall health picture to improve this for the long term, and fertility and pregnancy and menopause. So there's a few things there that I work on. I also run online programs for these different areas, one-to-one consultations in clinics, group workshops, corporate wellness, and luxury retreats all over the world, and at the moment virtually. So that's sort of it in a nutshell.
Just a little bit busy then.
Just a little bit, yeah.
Awesome. So today you're going to sort of just give us maybe like a nice general overview of kind of obviously, why it's important to think about nutrition, the food we eat and our lifestyle habits, and then we're going to sort of go touch on a few sort of subjects there, and then we're going to talk a little bit more about being quite specific in terms of let's say for our personal shopping community in terms of the day-to-day. And I think coming from a fashion industry, like you said, you absolutely know what that means in terms of long hours, early starts, late finishes, etc., and kind of how to introduce a little bit of balance going through that, so you can feel a little bit more I think you said the right word there, sustainable, so you can actually be sustainable. And so you're not kind of heading for burnout and things like that.
Absolutely.
So in a nutshell, how would you sort of how important is nutrition really and truly?
Yeah, it's so important, and I always kind of like to really simplify it and come back to if you own a car, sorry if you don't own a car, but if you have a car, or you know how to drive, when you take the car to the petrol station, if your car is petrol and you put diesel in it, what happens? You break down, the RAC has to come out and has to fix it. You might need to get a new car from it. Humans are the same in terms of our nutrition. If we keep putting the wrong foods into our bodies, then it's going to impact our health. Like we talked about just then, it's not sustainable to do that long term, because what will happen is, your body will start to slow down. You won't be able to function at optimal, which is what we all want. You will increase your risk factors for disease. And generally, you're just not going to feel as good. It's not sustainable long term if we don't take care of our health. And that's in terms of how we are living, in terms of our lifestyle. So are we making sure we've got enough time to rest? Not just about the food that we put in our body. How are we dealing with our mental health? Are we stressed all the time? Are we frantic all the time? That, again, if we're not calm and making time to be sort of calm in our minds and happy in our mental state, that's going to impact our physical body. Right. And I actually see it in massage all the time. People hold a lot of stress in their shoulders, so we hold a lot of physical and emotional tension in our muscles. So all impacts, diet, nutrition, lifestyle factors, what we eat, how we eat it, and the way we live our lives all play a really important role in our long-term health picture. So if we can start making good choices now, then we're going to be looking after ourselves when we get to later in life.
Absolutely. And I mean, in terms of, obviously everyone requires healthy nutrition, but is it fair to say that everybody's different and we need different things?
Absolutely, 1,000,000%. As a very, very basic guide, if you look at calories, and I don't really like to say, focus on calories, but in terms of what women need and what men need to eat more calories to sustain them compared to women. But there's also a greater difference between when you're a child, teenager, adult, later in life, and then also through pregnancy and fertility. Our nutrient statuses change, but also as an individual, down to your genetic sort of DNA and coding could depend on whether you need more zinc, through your diet than I do, because you perhaps don't metabolize it or process it in the same way in your body as mine does. So everyone is completely unique in terms of what they need and the nutrients they need. And that the same goes for diets as well. Not every diet will suit you as a person because your requirements are different.
Absolutely. And do you think it's something is quite difficult to, as an individual, is it difficult for individuals to identify what their body needs or doesn't need? I think there are times when maybe we are actually exhibiting very physical responses, but we're not necessarily knowing what that means or what that's linked to, for example.
Absolutely. And I think the more in tune we can be with our bodies, and that's quite hard because when you're having lots of stimulants like alcohol, caffeine, sugar, or smoking and things like that, we dull down our senses. So what you think is your normal actually is really suboptimal, not your normal at all. So it's about being able to try and take a step back and really tune into your body and think, I'm not feeling quite right today, but why am I not feeling right? I'm bloated. Is it because I'm stressed? Is it because I haven't had enough water? Is it because I've eaten something that was really kind of heavy and doesn't agree with me? So the first thing I would say is kind of try and tune into your body and intuitively think about what your body needs. If you're tired, do you need to sleep or do you need to eat? Why are you tired? Why are you getting the energy dips? And if there are those big physical symptoms, then go to your GP, and explain to your GP, for instance, you've got low mood, low energy. A lot of people in the UK are suboptimal in vitamin D. So that could be that, your vitamin D levels need testing. So if you're in any doubt at all, go to your GP, see a healthcare provider, book in with a nutritionist, and they can help support you on that journey to make sure that you're getting the right testing to find out what's going on. Don't ignore the symptoms and just think, oh, that's just me, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that is something that and I wouldn't generalize, but let's say use myself as an example. As I've gotten older, this has become something more that I've felt or allowed myself to feel more attuned to. And you know, you're kind of going through all this kind of like, I suppose you're just trying to get through life. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's how it felt for me. And so it's so you know, you're just there to fight another day. And then as I've gotten older, you know, the kind of things that now I kind of focus on and listen to, and you know, has kind of grown with age, a little bit more of awareness, but really just listening to what's actually, or observing what's happening, and kind of trying to, like you said, identify at what point, you know, is this or that, and noticing the changes, and especially for the better or for the worse is something, it's always going to be a learning curve to a certain extent, right?
Absolutely. And you know, you hit the nail on the head there. It's like, if you feel tired, then you need to rest, you know, making that time to give yourself time for you, whether you want to call it self-care or, you know, just creating some space, which a lot of us, I think, find hard to do when we're working really long hours and we've got really hectic schedules, and, you know, you've got 151 emails that you need to get through. But it's like, if you can't rest there and then create space at some point in your day, even if it's just for 15-20 minutes, just to, you know, completely relax and zone out in whatever way you find that easiest to do, you're going to feel so much better afterwards, because we can't keep pushing our bodies, you know, until we reach that point where we do get to burnout, and then it's going to take much longer to recover. So we've got to be kind.
Absolutely, be kind to yourself. I think that's a great message.
Yeah.
So let's get to kind of, maybe I wouldn't say specific, because I think we've only got 30 minutes here, but you know, what does a healthy balanced meal look like to you? Or
Yeah, that's a really great question, because a lot of us, like, until I studied nutrition, I probably wouldn't have known what that really meant. And there's so many messages out there of what we should be eating or what we shouldn't be doing or what diet we should be following. Don't follow any of them, you know, just stick to the basics of a balanced meal. So what that comprises of, if you were looking at a sort of a round sort of dinner plate in front of us, the basics, and you can't really go wrong with this, are half a plate of your salads, your vegetables, your greens, your, you know, not fruit if you're having a dinner, but I don't know, you might put grapes in your salad, but half a plate of veggies, a quarter of your plate being protein. So if you're a meat eater, then meat, fish, eggs. If you're a vegetarian or vegan, then you want to look for complete protein sources are the best. So you're getting all of the amino acids. So you'd be looking at things like quinoa, chia seeds, hemp, and making sure that you were getting sort of lots of nuts and seeds and pulses in there to get that protein. And then a quarter of your plate, you want to be a complex carbohydrate, ideally. So not your kind of like white pasta, white bread, things like that. You really want to go for things like sweet potatoes or normal potatoes or brown rice, or again, another grain like quinoa and things like that, because these are slow release energy. And then you want to have some healthy fats in the middle as well. So that's things like, you know, avocado, olive oil, again, nuts and seeds that are really rich in those omega-3 fatty acids.
I mean, I think that's a really great way to break it down. And I think in terms of like having an idea of how much you should be having like each day, for example, like fruit and veg, that's always a thing that comes up. And I don't know if this is true, but we a lot of people subscribe to this idea of, you know, this is one of your you know,
yes,
fruit and veg a day, right? And
yeah,
I don't know how true this is. I haven't done the research, so correct me. But then I found out largely that this was also down to like marketing. And so you're always kind of like, oh, well, thought I was doing all the fruit and veg. And
yeah.
I was doing enough fruit and veg at all.
Absolutely. I get very angry in the supermarket when I walk around and see, oh, this is one of your 5 a day, and it's just like fruit juice, and it's like, but all the sugar, it's like you need to balance it out.
Yeah.
And it is a minefield. Supermarkets are a minefield because a lot of it is marketing, like you said. So it's like, how do you kind of differentiate with that? And I think also as well, I'm going to be a little bit controversial here. The 5 a day is actually government guidelines for, so what they do is they look at the population as a whole, and they set that as a target that they think would be achievable for the general population as a whole. It's not what we would say as nutritionists, our optimal level to achieve optimal health. So I would say if you're getting 5 a day, that's great as an absolute minimum. If you really want to look at sort of optimal health, I'd aim for 7, if you can, portions of vegetables. And when we say portions, that's like a fistful or 80 grams, and then up to 3 portions of fruit a day. And actually, when you think about that, that's a lot. You know, that is a lot to try and pack that in. So, you know, rather than restrictive diets, I actually say to clients, you know, let's try and get more in for the things that we're taking out, and try and get up to that 7 to 10 portions a day, because it's just, you know, it's just so the benefits of eating all of those different colors, they're full of antioxidants, full of fiber. It's just so good for us. And I think in Australia, actually, I think their target's about 10 or 13.
Oh wow.
So yeah, we need to up the fruit and veggies, people.
Do more. Okay.
Do more. And smoothies is a really good way of doing that.
Okay, cool. Amazing.
Yeah.
That's good to know, because I think it is something as well that just in, I don't know if this is true for everyone, but I find ideally I would prefer not to have to buy fruit and veg from a supermarket, but that's what happens to be, you know, convenient, which is great. But then things go off very quickly. You don't always necessarily get to utilize everything as quickly as you would like, you know, because of lifestyle, because of things going on. And then you find yourself with, like, you know, you're not using it as much as you would like to. And actually I found that when I started doing juicing at home, this was a really great way for me to kind of utilize like extra veg and things like that. And I'd sometimes would actually put it in the freezer, because I just knew it was gonna go off before I was gonna get to use it. And then this way I could do it in a smoothie, in a juice, and I was like, you know, at least something. It's not everything, it's not like I'm relying on that, but it was just that kind of extra thing of like, at least, you know, I've got a little bit here, and it would last a lot longer, because it was really hard just to kind of keep up the pace.
And do you know what, that is the best thing that you can do. I would say, if you know, if you've got all the time in the world, great, but a lot of us don't. So if you are time poor, the best thing you can do is sign up to like a organic veg box delivery. They come each week. You can have the same thing every single week. You don't even need to go to the supermarket. Like, you don't even have to be in. They'll drop it and leave it at your door, and you know that you're getting organic fruits and veggies. There's quite a lot in London. I think there's Farm Drop, Abel and Cole, Riverford. They're all really good options. You know, get all of your 7 to 10 fruits and vegetables that you want to, you know, try and incorporate into your diet. Like you said, on a Sunday, or when you've got 5 minutes, chop them up, put them in the freezer, and then all you have to do is just get them out the freezer as and when you want to make your smoothies. You know, keep some out for your cooking in the evening. But if you're thinking about, right, I want to get 3 portions of either fruit and veg, so I try and mix your fruit and veg in a smoothie so that you're balancing sugars for breakfast. Put that in the freezer, and then you can even put what you want to have in it in one bag. So all you've got to do in the morning is take your bag out of the freezer and put it in your blender, and then off you go. And
it's so quick, and it
so quick
time,
and it saves so much time.
I agree. So, you know, to get a bit more specifics, you know, what, and I think you have touched on it a little bit, but what are your kind of tips for the time poor, in terms of, you know, foods and meals, just to kind of keep sustained? You know, we touched on it before with these early starts and late finishes, and you're kind of just trying to sort of get through the day, hopefully with the same energy, which is, you know, some days I think are better than others, but essentially, you know, what nutrition is going to help us with that?
Yeah, absolutely. So being as prepared as possible is key. Because if you are starting the day and, like you say, you've got a really long day and you're surviving off 4 coffees in a day, and then getting home and you're shattered and you don't want to cook anything, and then you're buying in a takeaway or something like that, you are going to feel, you know, worse over time. So being really prepared, I think batch cooking is a lifesaver. So if you've got a couple of hours on a weekend, and you really don't need more than a couple of hours to just batch cook meals, put them in, your Tupperware or glass, glass Tupperware, put them in the fridge or pop them in the freezer. I always say make more than what you need when you're having dinner as well, because then you can just pop it in the freezer and take it out for one of those nights where you are pulling a really late shift at work and you're coming home and thinking, I need something really, really quick. Or you defrost it in the morning so that it's ready for when you get back. So batch cooking, number one, is the most important thing. Also, doing things like overnight oats are really great, because you can make them when you're making your dinner the night before, and it's super easy. Just whack oats in, your favorite milk, you put the fruit in the next day, or you can blend up some strawberries and pop that in as well. Leave them overnight, and then you can take it with you to work the next day if you don't have time for breakfast. So batch cooking, making sure you have 3 meals a day if you can, because that's going to help balance your energy throughout the day, which is really, really important. Making sure you've got enough water, so you've got enough fluids. So 2 liters of water, about approximately, it depends on your individual needs, but approximately 2 liters a day. Because again, if you're hydrated, then you're going to know when you are actually hungry and when you're not, because sometimes, a lot of the time, when we feel hungry, we could actually just be really dehydrated.
Right.
So, and then making sure you've got some really good snacks with you on the go. So I wouldn't advocate snacking all the time, because we need to give our pancreas time and our digestive system time to have a break. But if you've got some really good things, like you could have a jar of nut butter by your desk and bring apples in, and mix the nut butter with an apple, or just have some really good like nuts and seeds that you could have to snack on. And making sure that you've got those kind of like healthy options that you can go to, like a good healthy options in terms of snacks, so that you're not immediately going for the chocolate bars, the crisps, that kind of quick fix 3 p.m. Energy slump.
And offices, in my experience, this is always like a real hotbed for
all the cakes.
It's always someone's lemon
birthday. Yeah.
It's always someone's birthday, or there's always a share of something going on, which is obviously not a terrible thing with it, but it does sometimes create a bit of a crutch, and it can create like bad habits, and you don't even realize it, because you're just in the office, and then and like you said, you're just sort of mindlessly snacking. You're not It's not like you're hungry, or that it can be so mindless, and it's just very kind of like, oh yeah, I'll have it because it's there. And sometimes it can be like a bit of a hot. But I used to love it, actually. A couple of offices I've worked in where they would provide like fruit baskets every day or every week, and I used to love that, because it just meant that at least there's a little bit of snacking, but there's something else. It doesn't have to be chocolate or sweets or what have you. And that's not to shame anyone who likes a chocolate or
no, of course, because who doesn't
exactly,
like
everyone,
and that's the thing, you've got to enjoy yourself. I always say, like, everything in moderation. Like, it doesn't mean you can never eat chocolate again, or you can never have a cake, but just try and adopt an 80-20 rule. And when you do have it, that you really enjoy it. You're not just kind of like mindlessly eating for the sake of it, or because you need that energy hit. Have it because you really want to have it and you really want to enjoy it. As long as you're not having it every single day, every meal, then we're fine. But trying to adopt that 80-20 rule, and then that should sort of steer you in the right direction. But making sure that you've got those balanced meals, like we talked about earlier, that balanced plate. At each meal, you want to make sure that you are balancing your protein, your carbohydrates, and your fats, and filling it full of fiber and antioxidant rich foods like the fruit and veg. So if you stick to those rules, I hate to say rules, that sounds awful, not rules, but if you stick to those kind of guidelines, then you're definitely winning and heading in the right direction.
Absolutely. And I think before we go into a sort of like Q&A, so if anyone here has got a specific question for Alice, she'll do her best to answer, or maybe if it's something a bit more complex, I'm sure you can come back to that person a bit later. But one thing I find is, like, it's very good, like, you can do, when you do the batch cooking, like, you're being prepared, but there's always going to be, in my career experience, the days where it's, you know, a client's in town, or you're like, for example, I've gone on like work trips, like to Paris, to Middle East, or what have you, and all the clients want to meet you, breakfast, lunch, dinner. And there's certain cultures, for example, I will give this as being specific, but going to the Middle East for me, and kind of understanding their culture, is that they want to show you hospitality. They show you hospitality through food, and showing, you know, to be generous. And so you can't really get away with not eating, or you know, they like, you know, in terms of the way that my clients have ordered, you know, they order a little bit of something, they want you to try everything, and so you want to be very respectful. So do you have any tips in terms of kind of like client lunches and dinners, you know, how to order and kind of to be quite mindful at the same time?
Yeah, it's always a tricky one, because I think as well, especially like us, like Brits in the UK, we are very polite, and we don't want to feel, you know, that's the worst situation to be in, especially, you know, with clients or friends, family, where you think, oh gosh, I really don't want to have that, but I don't want to be rude. So the best things you can sort of do around alcohol is either go for, so say for instance everyone's having champagne, or you know, you feel you don't want to drink, but you feel like you might have to have one or something like that. Go for a spirit, with, you know, lots of tonic or soda water or something like that in it, because they are sort of, if, and again, I hate to come back to calories, but in terms of that, they're sort of very low on the spectrum there. Or you know, go for a really nice small glass of red wine or something like that, or try and go for, you know, there are really good alcohol-free alternatives now, like Seedlit, Eddy spirits, 3 Spirit. So if they've got those options on there, go for that. Or you can ask for a tonic water or soda water in a tumbler glass with some lemon in, and no one will know that you are drinking anything different. You can just say pop a sprig of rosemary and they'll think you're having a G&T. So those are my kind of top sneaky tricks for alcohol. But also make sure that you're drinking lots of water. So for every alcoholic drink that you're drinking, have a glass of water with it. And that's going to really help with the hangover the next day as well, if you have too many.
Oh, absolutely. Because it reminds me, my granddad, he never used to drink. He wasn't a drinker, and he used to do a lot of events and around the carnival and stuff. And I remember my nan saying that he used to buy what he would do to kind of, because everyone would want to buy him a drink, and they're like, why don't you drink, and you should drink. So he would just buy a pint at the beginning of the event and just walk around with it. Oh no, I've got a beer.
Exactly, yeah, and slowly slip your drink. It's perfect. It's so good. Another really great option.
I love
it's so good.
And in terms of, you know, having to kind of, you know, obviously I'm sure it varies from the restaurant, the venue, etc. But you know, how do you feel the best places to order? Is it just order as normal? Do you want to do sharing? What would you say is a good idea?
Yeah, I think if you've got specific dietary requirements, then don't be afraid to sort of say at the beginning. You know, I think it's always better just get it out there, even if it's a little bit of an awkward conversation, to be like, I can't wait to go for lunch at this restaurant, but I just have to say, like, I'm dairy intolerant, so I don't want to be tricky, but I just need to put it out there now so that you know. So be honest straight away, because people aren't, you know, at the end of the day, people are very kind and they will be understanding towards those things. So don't suffer in silence if if you need to not have something. Just it will be fine to just say, I can't have that today. Sharing is a lovely idea, but again, then you are kind of subject to what everyone else orders. But if everyone is sharing, then you can perhaps put some suggestions in there that are, if you know it's quite heavy, then just get some vegetable options in there. You know, get some lighter options in there. It's hard because we're obviously not looking at specific restaurants, but things like, you know, stir fries, sides of vegetables, fish dishes if you eat fish, or lean meats like chicken and turkey or seafood and things like that. Or if you're a vegetarian, then you know, good vegetarian options. A lot of vegetarian options, perhaps not the burgers, but tend to be quite healthy because they have a lot of vegetables through there, unless they're trying to imitate other things like burgers, because sometimes if it's not made in the restaurant, they can be quite heavily processed as well, but that's a completely another topic area
theory. That's a new episode.
yeah, that's a whole new thing. But the main things are just try and get more vegetables in there, because actually if you are having quite a sort of heavy carb rich dinner followed by a chocolate pudding and quite a creamy rich dessert, although it's not the best thing in the world, no food is bad. Like we said, it's all in moderation. And actually, if you can just there's been studies actually that have shown that if you actually add in vegetables and fruits when you're having meals like that, it can actually reduce the oxidative stress on the body.
Oh, wow.
So it's just always really beneficial. If you're having a Mars bar, have some broccoli.
I like that. And actually, one of the things I kind of, the first time you do that type of work trip or, client lunch or what have you, and you mess up, and then you feel really heavy when you come back to the office, or the next day, you've got a long day and you're feeling really bloated or what have you. And so I definitely learned how to, like you said, adding more vegetables. If I felt like I was going to have something quite rich, I'd try and have as much sides as possible, or, drinking lots of water. As well, so I'm not sort of focused on not that I would really drink a lot, but some clients want you to feel social, and so it's about finding a little bit balance and then feeling comfortable to, like you said, just let them know, listen, this is a long week, I can't do this, but let me have this with you. I don't want it's, I think being really upfront about it actually does make a lot of difference, because like you said, people are not trying to force feed you with liquor,
Yes.
want you to have a good time.
So, exactly. Awesome. All about balance, and like you say, just being upfront and honest, and like you say, just going with the flow, but knowing what works for you and what doesn't, and it is trial and error.
Absolutely, yeah, for sure. So we've got a couple of questions for you today, for some anonymous attendees. So the first one here is, what are the best fruits to snack on that are low calorie or low sugar? Because I've read that they are very high in sugar, even though natural, but I eat a lot of it.
Okay. So yes, fruit is high in sugar, but it's different to the sugars that we find in sort of pure cane sugar. Fruit sugar, the way we absorb that is very different to when we have processed sugar, which we don't necessarily burn for energy as quickly, and we can store it as fat very quickly. That's it in a very sort of simplified manner. So I would never stop encouraging someone to eat fruit, because I think it's excellent. But what you've got to do is manage your blood sugar levels. So if you are having fruit, have lots of fruit, making sure that you're having enough vegetables, but also balancing that out with healthy fats. So that's why I say snack on an apple with some nut butter, because you're balancing out the fruit sugars with a healthy fat, which also has protein in it as well. So but in terms of answering her question specifically, or his question specifically, you could look at berries are really good sources. So things like blueberries, raspberries, strawberries, they're really, really high in antioxidants, which are just amazing for the skin, anti-aging, everything really. So go for the berries, they're a really good option.
Oh, great, awesome. And then another question we have here, also anonymous, what are your thoughts on juicing or juice cleanses?
Oh, that's a really good question. That is gosh, how long have we got? Oh dear. Juicing. There are several different camps within the nutrition world about whether juicing is good for us or not. In my view, I think that getting the fruit and vegetables into your diet, if that's the only way that you can do it, is great. However, in terms of actually eating fruits and vegetables, in other ways, juicing is probably the McDonald's of eating fruits and vegetables. Wow. Why do I say that? Because you're stripping out all of the plant fibers, and you are just left with a very sort of high sugar content, which again isn't good for balancing our blood sugar, because it can create spikes. So if you're juicing, what you want to do is combine fruit and vegetables. Don't just go for the fruits, because then that will be very, very high in just the fruit sugars, and balance that out with the vegetables. But I would always suggest going for a smoothie rather than a juice, because you're getting all of those plant fibers, which we really need for our gut health as well. Okay. So, and juice cleanses, I'm not the biggest fan, to be honest. Again, for those reasons, a lot of people do them for things like liver cleanse, but actually if you're eating a really good balanced diet, I think you can do that through foods without juicing it. And sometimes they can be good for some people, but not for everyone. So you got to be careful about whether that's going to put your body under more stress, or actually benefit you. And there's so much more that you can just do through foods alone, rather than doing sort of a very restrictive juice cleanse where you're not eating any foods. I think if that's what they mean by that.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And then if we have any more questions, now is the time to put it in. But we have one more, which also I think might be a big topic. But is a vegan lifestyle immediately a much healthier lifestyle? Because I'm thinking of changing.
Wow, these are really big questions. These are like whole topics in themselves. Maybe we should do a topic on each of these in the future. So a vegan diet, you've got to, it can be really beneficial if you do it in the right way. I wouldn't necessarily advocate a vegan diet over a healthy balanced diet. If you're saying, if you put a gun to my head and said what would be the best diet in the world to eat now, I would say look at one, try and remove the whole diet concept. Two, the Mediterranean diet is probably the most in terms of its health benefits. If you look at the blue zones, they're all the people that are living, that are centurions living over 100 years old, and they all are adopting some sort of version of the Mediterranean diet. So I would say avoid diets if possible. Try and eat more intuitively on what your body needs. Mm-hmm. You could think, right, I want to try a vegan diet, but actually it might not necessarily work for you. I've had clients that have wanted to do a vegan diet, and actually they've just found that it wasn't right for them. Their energy levels were too low, and they weren't getting what they needed from that diet. So really have a think about the reasons of why you want to do that, because vegan diets can be quite restrictive. And make sure that you've got all of the education in front of you to be able to do it properly. So you've got to consider things like the vitamins and nutrients that you might be depleted in. B12, because you're not eating red meat, and we only get B12 unfortunately predominantly from meat sources. So looking at B12, vitamin D, your omegas, making sure that you're getting enough omegas in the diet, vitamin A, vitamin K, I could go on. And just making sure that you're eating complete protein sources. So that's getting your 9 essential amino acids throughout the day, so that you're getting enough protein into the body as well. So that's kind of it in a snapshot, but I could, there's obviously lots to expand on with a vegan diet.
Absolutely. No, I think it's really interesting, and I think over the years that has been something that has come to, it tends to become, funny enough, quite a water cooler conversation, talking about veganism or plant-based or what have you. And like, I think you hit the nail on the head. It's like, if that's what you need, it probably it's probably great, but if it isn't, and it's not work, you have to kind of accept that. And also I think because of especially in, let's say, Western society, we have a lot of processed,
absolutely,
regardless of right, veganism or not. So that I've learned through sort of like friends' experiences, that actually wanting to become vegan, and then maybe because they didn't do their research, or because they didn't really understand what they needed for their body, they've been kind of ended up having a lot more processed foods than probably they were doing before they changed.
Exactly. It's very easy to sort of adopt a vegan diet and not necessarily know what to eat. So you could just end up eating, I had one client that was just eating pasta and tomato sauce, and nutritionally that's not good. What you want to be aiming for is that kind of whole plant food diet. So you're not eating these processed burgers or you know, pretend chicken nuggets. You know, that's the same as eating a chicken nugget. You want, in terms of the process behind it, you want to go for, you know, unprocessed real foods. So, you know, making mushroom burgers with the mushroom at home yourself, making sure that you're eating all of these really great whole plant foods like beans, pulses, grains like rice, all the fruits and vegetables. And then actually, you know, how eating a plant-based diet can be incredible, because you are making sure that you're getting all that fiber and nutrients in. But it's just about getting that balance between going to the process end of the spectrum and the, you know, the vegan alternatives, and actually creating a beautiful plant-based diet yourself at home, making sure you're having lots of olive oil and nuts and seeds on your fruit and veggies.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, this has been an amazing first installment of the wellness series. I'm sure myself included, you've given us a lot to think about, a lot to research on. I can't wait for the next one. What we're going to discuss. I'm sure there'll be even more questions now.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for your time, Alice, and we'll see you again soon.
Thanks, Dominique. Can't wait. See you for the next one.
Bye.
Bye.